Welcome to NMP Talk Show, the show that keeps you informed and engaged with topics about your mental health wellness. And today we have a guest who's going to give us some few tips on even guidance on how we can, you know, um, deal with our mental wellness, especially at the workplace. A lot of people have gone back to work now. There's deadlines that are coming one after the other. Work is starting to pile up, and there's accreditation. Companies are going up and down looking for good accreditation. BE levels, and that could really strain a person, especially working on those conditions. So we want to know how we can cope with these conditions. And for this, we do have a professional that's going to help us into dealing with conditions like this in our workplace. And to introduce him, he's a systemic team coach. He's an executive coach and an owner of Coaching Unity International. He's a host of South African top corporate wellness podcast called the Mike and Renee Show. Just be on the lookout for it. They've got great content that you really enjoy. And also he's GTCI faculty member. I hope I got this one right. So who are we talking about? Yes, we're talking about Michael Cooper. Michael, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Nev. Appreciate that.
How are you doing, Michael?
Yeah, good. Feeling stressed, eh?
Aren't we all? Aren't we all? Mike, I've given away all these epaulets that you have. Please tell us in your own words, who's Michael? Yeah.
So, when I left corporate life 20 years ago, I went out on my own as an executive coach. Back in the days when executive coaching was very new in South Africa, so spending a lot of time explaining to people, first of all, what executive coaching was, and then trying to get them to buy some. But it's been great being in the industry for 20 years. I get to work with top leaders in most of the large organizations across South Africa, from small businesses, medium business to large corporates. So really focusing on performance and increasing performance and adding value, but with a more and more of a focus over the last few years as well around wellness being part of that as well. It's no good pushing people to the point where they're performing, but they're burning or they're breaking down. So it's more around an ethical performance, a sustainable performance, something that feels manageable. And so how do we get top executives to function like that?
Nice. No, thanks for that introduction. So we do know, we're confident that we're speaking to somebody who does know his story. So the topic of today is managing stress at work. And as I introduced, the conditions at work can be very hectic. We need to know how to, uh, uh, roam around the streets of workplace so that we are able to cope with them. So, Mike, let's jump into it. What has stress increased, or why has stress increased since COVID?
So I think there's
We have I know COVID. We have to blame it somewhere. Yeah, but why increased since then?
So I think there's a couple of reasons. One is what happened itself at the time. People were afraid. There's a lot of fear. People were really concerned about keeping their jobs, getting sick, managing sickness. People become really, really focused on getting through, particularly perhaps those first couple of months in 2020. What happens then, Hena, is you become very focused on just surviving. And it's interesting how we change our brain chemical and we change our thinking when we're surviving. So we get into what I call a survival thought pattern of, let me just get through the day, let me just get through the week. What happens then is we can tend to get stuck in that. And I think many people are still stuck in that survival mindset of, I just need to get through the day, I just need to get through the week. So that's part of it. I think there's another part of what happened during that time was a lot of people jumped in and did extra.
Okay, Mike, I think we lost you.
Are you
Okay,
hearing
you're
me?
back.
All right.
Yeah, I can.
So I was saying, like during COVID, I think a lot of people made sacrifices in the sense that they had to pivot quite quickly in the work that they were doing. So move to working from in the office to working at home. People were willing to work long hours.
mm,
make sacrifices to help their companies to keep their jobs and to do that. So it kind of shifted what we would call like the baseline of what is normal.
mm,
And I also there think we haven't reset or found a healthy normal again. So there's a couple of things. One is getting into survival mechanism during COVID. Secondly, the reset of the baseline of what it means to be normal. We haven't reset back. And I'm finding that people are pretty exhausted of running at this very, very high speed and trying to manage the complexity. I don't know about you as well, but some of the boundaries got a bit blurred. In the old day, I talk about the old days, a few years ago, to be prior COVID, you used to get in your car and drive to work, and then you would get in your car and drive home. So you had this natural bookends
mm.
on your day where you would separate work from home, and you would leave work and then you would come home. And then look, a lot of people still did extra work in the evenings and that, but there was these natural breaks. What's happening now, I think, with technology, was ramped up during COVID and gave us access to Teams and Zoom, etc. There's this expectation of always available. So
Yeah.
the natural breaks in the day where you would be able to go, well, I'm going to get in my car, and even though I'm in traffic for half an hour, it's me time. In the sense of I can just be with my thoughts, I can reflect on the day, I can plan a little bit of what I want to do. Now that's not happening because perhaps you're working from home and you're going from one meeting to another. I'm hearing a lot of my clients talk about meetings set at 5, 6, 7 o'clock in the evening, and an expectation of, well, even though you're home, you should be able to join that meeting because the technology is there.
They pay for it, so
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
most of the time, man.
yeah.
So yeah. Sorry to jump in there. I hear you talking about transition from um, Zoom time. I mean the COVID era to what we call normal. That we have those breaks, commuting time and
Mm,
work time and all of those. But now with the ramped up of technology, we don't have that. We're working longer hours.
yeah.
Um, do you as an employee have the right to say no? This is my time.
That's such an interesting question. Like, do you have the right to? I think you have to. Um,
Yeah.
and now, you know what? It's a transaction.
Mm,
Um, any company wants to be profitable, and to
yeah.
be profitable, you want to use the resources that you've got the best you can. So they want to get the most out of the people that they have.
Mm,
And so no boss is going to tell you don't work or do less or go home. If you're willing to work,
they'll
fantastic.
capitalize on it. Yeah.
They'll take advantage of it. So
Yes.
at a certain point in time, it's very much dependent on you putting a stake in the ground and say, up to here, I'm willing to do this, but I have to
Mm,
set a boundary somewhere, and I'm going to carve out some space that is important for me. So you have to set those boundaries. Now, it's interesting. I think you asked, are you allowed to? It's not a are you allowed to from the company perspective. I find it's more an internal question,
mm,
like permission in your own head. So many people are afraid of, I can't say no.
mm,
Uh, I don't want to be a person who is perceived to be saying no to important things when things need to get done, or one of these people who seems to be taking it easy or going home at a certain time. I don't want to get labeled as that, so I say yes to everything. And through the coaching, often we have this conversation around what does a healthy boundary look like? How do I start setting up a healthy boundary? How do I have this conversation around what I'm willing to do and not? And you know what the really interesting thing is, where people think the world is going to end the first day you say no. I'm going to get fired. They're going to get rid of me. They're going to replace me. You say no, and nobody even notices. You just say, "Sorry, I can't do that today. I've got something more important on. I'm sorry. I'm going to." You go home. You switch your phone off, and nobody really notices. So we often build it up much more in our own minds around the consequences of setting the boundaries and saying no,
mm,
and you have to test it out and challenge it. Um, so that's an important part of the reframing is what we as human beings we often imagine that the worst case scenario is going to happen. You know what? I'm going to be labeled as a person who doesn't appreciate my job, it doesn't work, who takes it easy. So I can't say no. I
mm,
have to say yes to everything.
So,
And
so
then, but
Mike,
that has consequences, of course, on the other side.
mm,
Yeah.
mm. You know, while you're saying this, it just brings back a lot of memories while I still in corporate too. Um, I found that when I interacted with, uh, employees that are getting paid low salaries, you know, they don't have big positions. They are the ones who actually are able to say no
Mm.
compared to those who are in high levels. The directors, the managers. I don't know. Is that the trend that you're seeing with your clients?
Oh, very much so. I think when you're a lower level salaried employee and you walk out the door 5:30, nobody minds.
Mm,
It's normally later on when you get more senior roles, the expectation is availability. Yeah. We're paying you
mm,
more, we're giving you more responsibility, and with that responsibility and accountability,
mm.
we demand availability. Um, so the expectation is we want to be able to call you whenever we need to. We want to see you in the office early in the morning, and we want to see you setting an example to other people in the team by leaving late in the day as well.
I guess you said yes to those questions during your interview, so you can go back and say no, I'm not available anymore.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think we touched this somehow, but we can elaborate more on it. Um, why are so many people experiencing burnout? We were able to distinguish, salary brackets, how they manage, stress and all of that, but not quite detailed.
Yeah.
But if we go into detail into this one, why are so many people experiencing burnout?
So 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 burnout is when you have continuous stress at a high level without breaks for a sustained period of time.
Mm,
Um, and eventually, what happens is it has mental consequences: depression, low energy, lack of enthusiasm, motivation. It has physical consequences. The stress response in the body of the hormone cascade that takes place when you're constantly working under high stress, and
mm,
then eventually your body says, "Listen, you're not listening to me. I can't sustain this pace anymore. I'm going to force you to take a break." And people experience it as a shutdown, this constant
mm,
exhaustion, and it's the body's way of saying you're not sleeping enough. So what's causing it is it's complex, I know, because stress is individualized. But I think we
mm.
agree that corporates are demanding huge amounts of people from people at the moment. What I'm seeing in the corporates is there's a strong focus on costing. So perhaps you used to be a team of 10 people, two people leave. Now there's an expectation of you can't replace them because we on a cost cutting. So now you're down to eight. So the work that 10 people used to do, now eight are expected to do. January rolls around, it's a new year, we set some new targets. So now you've got to do 10% more because we've got to increase the targets for next year. So there's constant pressure to exceed targets, to do more with cost cutting simultaneously means that people are often carrying an excess load. Organizations also run very, very lean. So they calculate we need eight people in this team. They can justify eight people in the team. But what happens? Somebody resigns, and you don't just hire somebody at a high level with good skills in South Africa in a week's
Mm.
time. It now takes 4, 6, 8 months to replace that individual. So for the next 4 to 6, 8 months, somebody else
Somebody.
is carrying that load. By the time you find that next person, somebody else is exhausted or found something on, they move on. So teams, this pressure that organizations are putting to run lean from a cost perspective, I'm finding is putting a lot of pressure on people. And then, I mean, you also have all the socioeconomic pressure at the moment of living in South Africa. You have crime, you have um, corruption, you have bad traffic in the morning. Um, people,
Load shedding.
um, load shedding is a huge one. I come home and I can't relax and just do what I want to do because there's load shedding from 6 to 8, so I can't cook dinner for the children. So all those other things on top of that just create the
Mm,
stress load that people are not managing.
Mm.
So I think those are some of the big contributors to this sense of load that people are carrying, and we haven't given people enough of the techniques and tools to manage the stress well. So they feel like there's no outlet. I don't have a choice, and they're trapped. And it's that trapped feeling, interesting enough, that I feel as a coach primarily contributes to burnout.
Mm.
Perhaps another way of saying it is a loss of meaning or loss of purpose. You don't mind doing something hard if you feel like it's really, really important and there's a value in it.
Yeah.
But this disconnect that people have where they go, it feels like there's no more meaning in what I do, or I've lost contact with the meaning. And the metaphor that I
We
would
lost.
use would be like a
Mm.
treadmill that you're running on, and your boss comes along at the end of the year and says, "Well done," and he puts the treadmill up 5% more. Okay, can run faster now, and every year it goes 5% faster, but you're not going anywhere, and you feel like I'm just expected to give and give, but the meaning is lost. So the meaning is the big why of why am I doing this? Why is this important? What do I get out of this? How do I have this sense of value in my life? How do I
Mm.
connect meaning with what I do? And as human beings, we thrive when we have purpose and meaning. And this disconnect that I think people are experiencing sometimes, where they start questioning, why am I doing this?
Mm.
That, with pressure, is definitely a recipe for burnout.
Yeah, yeah. So I want to welcome those that have connected on Telegram. So as usual, if you have any questions, you're allowed to raise your hand there, and we'll unmute you so that you can ask your question or share an experience. I mean, we're talking about managing stress at workplace, and the majority that I'm seeing here that are connected, they are in the workplace, in fact. And we would like to hear what you think is stress in in the workplace, and how you yourself are dealing with it, or helping others if you have subordinates, or those that you're leading in the team. How you helping them to cope with stress? We really love to hear from you. We also have those that are connected on Riverside. For yourselves, if you do have a question or comment, you can just type there, and we'll be able to read it out to our guest. So as we continue, Michael, we've seen how stress, I mean burnout, comes to be in a person, right? But what are practical things that a person can do so that they can manage their stress?
All right, so that's a great question. Uh, So, so there's something. It's about the way you think about it. A lot of
Right.
people, if I can use an illustration, I heard an illustration the other day that somebody used around elite athletes. That elite
Yeah.
athletes train really, really hard, um, and then the next day they train hard again, and then the next day they
Mm.
train hard again, and they're able to sustain this very high levels of training. But what do elite athletes do the moment the hard training is finished? Is it's like that pendulum; it swings right back. So they recover hard. So there's a
Mhm.
recovery process of I work really hard. I do a hard workout, but then the rest of the day, an elite athlete will spend time on his nutrition, on his exercise, on resting, on sleeping, on getting a massage. Um, so there's that equality in the pendulum swing. And then the next day, they're ready to go again. They're energized to train hard again because they've recovered well. So if you think of this pendulum that swings of hard work, recovery,
Right.
it makes sense that the higher it
Michael
swings on the
seem
one
to
side,
be losing you. Can you hear me? Can
I
you
can
hear
hear you.
us now?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Now you're back. Sorry.
So if you
You
think
got
about
this.
this pendulum swinging, the higher it swings on the one side,
Yeah.
the higher it can swing back on the other side. So that doesn't apply though in the workplace, because
Hmm.
often what's happened is you expect it to swing high on this side, high performance, but there's no
Mm.
focus on recovery. People say, I can't wait for my December holidays because that's the only break I get. Go
Yeah.
away for 3-4 weeks. So it's terrible. You've got this 11 months of hard work pressure, and then you get a bit of a break. Other people
Like a
shorten
few.
it. Yeah.
Mm.
And interestingly enough, this January, a lot of people came back and said, "You know what? I came back from holiday. I'm still tired.
Yeah.
It's not enough even to reset." Other people, you see it, I know, they might work really hard and they spend the whole weekend just sleeping on the couch or watching TV, doing as little as possible just so they can have enough energy Monday morning to get back into the office again. So there's this 5 days, 2 days.
Mm.
You ask for a practical suggestion is think about daily practices that re-energize you.
Mm.
And it doesn't have to be um, pure recovery in the sense of I go and sleep. Sleep is important, and we'll talk about that. But daily practices. So here's a couple of things. Find little spaces in the day where you are re-energized. So, for example, what do you do first thing when you wake up in the morning? Many people pick up, the
Cell phone.
alarm goes off, they pick up their cell phone and they start looking at their cell phone. Now, that's a terrible thing to do. Because think about the mindset it puts you into. Straight away, your stress levels, they were nice and low from having a good night's rest. You pick up and you look at your first email, your first WhatsApp, you look at the news, boom, and your cortisol levels are just jumping like this and your stress levels are jumping because you're feeding your mind with that first thing in the morning. What if you didn't look at your phone or look at the news or look at television for the first 45 minutes in the morning? You just spent that morning in a spiritual practice, in a quiet time, go walk around the garden, go do some exercise, go for a walk. Um, just spending that time quietly, even if you are already starting to think and plan about your day, you're not allowing those external intrusive thoughts to come into your mind. It's around really starting off the day well. So
Mm.
there's a key thing. Um, Secondly, is this idea that there's work and there's exercise and wellness, and they're two separate things. I don't that for me is doesn't make sense in the modern world. Work and life flow in amongst each other nowadays because of what's happened during COVID. So wellness and looking after ourselves and recovery should also be built into the flow.
Mm.
So if you've been sitting at your desk for more than 3 hours in the morning,
Mm.
get up, go out, take half an hour, go, kick off your shoes, go walk on the grass outside. You don't know how much good it'll do you to walk barefoot in the grass with the sun shining. Take 15 minutes. Instead of having your cup of coffee at your desk and you're drinking your coffee while you're trying to handle your 5,000 emails, go sit outside for 15 minutes. Come back. That 15 minutes, what it'll do to you from an energy perspective. Take a break later on in the day. Go to an exercise class. Go to gym. 3 o'clock in the afternoon. 45 minutes. You come back. If you want to do another hour
Mm.
and a half after that. So this idea of I want to make sure my day is balanced, and I take these little gaps, spending time with people, doing things that energize me. And it might be just chatting to people. What is it that energizes you and gives your life meaning and purpose? Can I bring, instead of waiting for the weekend for that, can I bring that into a daily habit? So that's a key tip. And then, like, one of the top tips for me is like, take your cell phone, and here's a really big one, go to notifications and switch all your notifications off. Everything. All right. Now, a lot of people, when I say that, they go, "Oh, can you do that?" No. Well, yes, you can. Because it's the leash that we have where we expect it to, when somebody wants something from us, within,
Expect you to respond now. Mm.
yeah. And if they can't get you on an email, they're going to send you a WhatsApp.
Yeah.
So, so my suggestion is go to Teams, turn off notification. Go to WhatsApp, switch off notifications. Leave your phone to ring. So if there's an emergency, people can phone you. So what does this mean? This doesn't mean that I ignore all my messages the whole day, because I think in the workplace we can't do that. We have to
Mm.
respond. But it means that when I respond, I'm responding at a time I choose to respond. So if I'm doing some really important work here, I pick up my phone. Oh, okay, I've got a couple of messages. Let me have a look. Let me reply. But I feel like I'm in control. I'm choosing to do that when I want to, rather than feeling like it's a response.
Yeah. Yeah.
And now, do you know why that's so important? Is from a stress perspective. We battle to shift modalities or ways of thinking. So, for example, if I'm concentrating and a WhatsApp goes off, and I just for a second am am distracted by the WhatsApp and look at it. For me to go back to that concentrated piece of work that I was busy off where I really needed to pay attention, now it takes
Mm.
extra energy. So this constant modality shifting of 100 things all going off at the same time
Yeah. Mm.
adds to the stress load because I feel like
Yeah.
I can't get anything done because I'm trying to do 20 things at the same time.
Yeah. Mm.
So a couple of
You
small
know,
tips. Yeah.
yeah, those are great tips. I mean, I've read somewhere one article was talking about how you can study better.
Mm,
You know, and one of the things that it was encouraging is, you know, switch off notifications, like you were saying, or put your phone away. But most of us, we have everything that we need in our phones,
yeah.
like study material or
Mm,
whatever. They are there in the phones. But while you're going through them and there's a notification popping up on the top of your screen,
yeah.
you're tempted to go and answer it. So I'm not advocating Apple, and Apple is in no way sponsoring the show. I hope they're listening and they can do something about it. But there is a feature that I love so much. My phone would stop notifications at 10 o'clock. I've set it up like that.
Yeah.
So 10 o'clock, automatically it goes on do not disturb mode. And then I would have, you know, family, close family that only them can send me notifications, and
Yeah.
if they phone me, I can hear the ring. But otherwise, anyone else, not that I hate them, no, I
Mm,
don't. But anyone else, I leave time for tomorrow. So tomorrow, 7 o'clock, then I start getting all notifications, and I think that's a practical way of doing things,
yeah.
is that you set yourself limits and
Yeah.
slots.
Yeah.
You know, this is the slot that you use to work.
Yeah.
This is the slot you use to respond to emails or whatever. But some of our work, you know, involve email, Zoom, Teams, and all of those. But if you have everything in place, I think that also helps a lot, you know, in alleviating stress and burnout.
Yeah. I
But
agree.
thanks for the tips. Yeah, I really appreciate them.
And
So
now,
those that are, yeah.
so in the evening, for example, like I like your idea of limiting who can contact you. Another suggestion is
Mm,
don't carry your phone around with you. Like leave
mm,
it somewhere where you'll go past it every now and then and you can look, but don't have it on your body for a couple of reasons.
mm,
One is like unhealthy to carry a phone around with you all the time. It's not a healthy thing to do. Put it down somewhere, and when you need it, you can go to it. And then
mm,
a lot of people, when they're stressed, I find I'm like this sometimes. When I'm really tired and stressed, I just want to come home and crash on the couch and like watch some TV or something. So um,
mm,
and I find that this is the pattern that people have. They're working till 9, 10 o'clock at night, and then they're exhausted, but they haven't had any like me time.
mm.
So they go into like a scrolling mode, like I'm scrolling through perhaps
Social media.
or
Mm,
they are watching some TV or something like that. And then 2 hours goes past, and now it's 12 o'clock, and it's not actually restorative. It's not refreshing. It's not reloading. But it's almost like I need to have that bit of me time, so I'm going to find it somewhere. Now I'm getting less
mm,
than 6 hours sleep a night because the next morning, 5:30, the alarm goes off and we go again. And this constant
yeah.
pattern of bad refreshment in the evening through social media and television, late nights, early mornings, you run that pattern for a couple of months, and your hormones shift dramatically, uh, and you're on the road to burnout. A lot of people say, "Yeah, but I can manage it. I can get by with 4 or 5 hours sleep." Oh, really? You can, but should you? It's a totally different question.
Yeah, yeah, and I guess when you grow older, that all of that changes.
I
You
wouldn't
know,
know. I'm not old yet, but when I get older, no, but it's
you
true.
know what?
You need less.
When yeah, yeah,
Yeah, but still, but is that you got to ask yourself? I'm waking up perhaps early in the morning. Is that because
yeah,
I'm genuinely had enough sleep,
mhm,
or is it some other problem that I'm having, like bad sleep habits?
yeah,
Something's disturbing my sleep. So if you're not getting 6 to 7 hours regularly and your sleep's constantly disturbed, don't delude yourself into going, okay, well, I only need 3 hours sleep then. I'm okay.
mm.
Go get that checked out because that's an indication that there's something wrong.
All right, we keep losing you, Mike.
I can hear you. You're back again.
No, okay, yes, you're back now. So you don't. You said you must not fool yourself and say you only need 3 hours
No,
of
because
sleep.
if
That's where you lost it.
so, if you are waking up in the morning and you think, okay, I'm waking up. Obviously, I've had enough sleep. I only need
Yeah,
3 hours. No, go get it checked out. There's something wrong. It's probably hormonal. There's something wrong with your sleep patterns. That's not
yeah,
a healthy thing. You need to be getting probably
yeah.
7 minimum hours of sleep a night if you really want to sustain a high workload during the day.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's go back to the workplace, Mike. So here's me at my workplace, and I'm feeling very stressed. I'm reaching burnout levels. How do I effectively communicate my needs and concerns to my colleagues, or even to my superiors, to say, "Yo, guys, I cannot handle this. Please help me."
Okay. So exactly what you've done, what you just said there, is go and communicate the needs. What we're finding is people just withdraw.
Mm,
So I'm hearing a lot of complaints from leaders and managers that my team doesn't come onto screen anymore if they're virtual. They just won't switch on screens.
yeah.
They don't reply anymore. I send them messages. There's no responses.
Mm,
Um, and the hassle with that then is there's this: what are they doing? What are they up to? There's a question of um, are they taking this seriously? Whereas you get a far better response when you can communicate. I'm really battling. This is the challenge that I'm facing. This is what I need. These are some of the things that are going on for me. So communication is important. Um, I'll give you an example. One of the large organizations helped me to coach one or two people who had received health advice from doctors. And did they understand the advice from the doctors? Yes, they did. The doctor said, "You've got serious health problems. This is something you need to manage." So there's a clarity of the wellness advice that they were given. That wasn't the problem. 6 months later, they had applied none of the health advice that was given. It was all around, what will people think about me? Uh, is my boss going to feel like I am not performing? Am I going to be put on a risk then of a non-performer? And so it was all this self-perception of like wanting to be perfect, wanting to get it right, never saying no. A lot of it is those internal frames. So particularly if people have patterns of hyper-perfectionism, wanting to please people, very other aware of what others think and say about them. So those are some of the mental patterns that get in the way. And it was interesting to coach these two people who were having wellness problems around how to just go and have a conversation with their leader around, this is what I can do. This is what I'm really good at. I'm willing to take this on, but can I say no to that project perhaps? So it's around it's negotiating. This I'm willing to do. I'm willing to do this minimum this because this is an expectation. But do you mind if I say no to this extra stuff and those type of things? So that's the advice. Don't withdraw suddenly because you're just tired and you can't deal with the pressure. Um, Go and have a conversation. Um,
mm, mm.
Sometimes the line managers don't always have the skills, so talk to your human capital or person. Often they might be able to help. And then the really good organizations often have a wellness division as well that you can have a chat to, but have that conversation around, I'm really battling at the moment. I need to take a little bit of a step back. This is what I'm willing to do. That makes a big difference. When people see that you're not just disappearing, but
Yeah,
that you're willing
yeah.
to engage and negotiate and have that conversation.
So are you saying one can negotiate the KPI with their superior?
Yeah. Well, I'd love to say yes. I'd love to say yes every time, but it's so
Yeah,
dependent on who the person is. You,
yeah.
most of the leaders I talk to are actually very concerned with the health and the state of the people that they're in. There's a genuine concern there. Most organizations realize their people are under pressure and are trying to manage it. Uh, uh, so what happens though is, what it's like. You have a
Mm,
team of 10 people. because the organization perhaps doesn't equip me as a leader to manage performance well,
Yeah.
I can't get rid of underperformers, um, because that's really challenging sometimes in some organizations. And I'm not equipped to have those type of tough conversations with underperformers. So now, in reality, instead of having 10 people, I've actually got maybe 5 people who are genuinely performing, and I got 2 or 3 who are so-so, and then I've got two like almost non-performers who are doing nothing. But what happens to the 5? They end up carrying the loads. So organizations equipping their leaders to have quality performance conversations, to manage performance in an effective way. Um, that's a that's really really important. So we want to equip our leaders to deal with non-performance where there's genuine non-performance, and to make the discernment between what is genuine non-performance and where is this person perhaps non-performing for a reason, training, ill health, wellness issues, stress issues, and where's a genuine non-performance? How can I have a conversation with this? So this ability to have a one-on-one genuine conversation with the person so I can understand them, then put in place a management plan if it's a non-performer, like to get their performance up or to manage them out if necessary. And if the person is underperforming at the moment, around, okay, how do we support you through a period of time to get you back up to speed again? So it's those kind of conversations. So it's increasing the EQ of leaders. So it's one of the things that we do is we try and help team leaders and managers to have the skills. And if you said to me like, what's a critical management skill? It's this ability to have really high, powerful one-on-ones with people nowadays, so I can genuinely understand, because you're not sitting in front of me every day, like like you were in the past, where I could walk past you and see what you're doing. I could perhaps tell if you were tired or if were having a rough week. Perhaps you're working virtually at the moment, so I see you every now and then. It's not as high, but the skill of being able to sit down with you and have a conversation with you. How's it going? Are you coping? What are the challenges you're having? And this ability of managers to have that is important. So there's this, that's something. So I'd love to tell you that you need to go and have that negotiation and your manager will listen to you. My suggestion is go and have that conversation and hopefully your manager will listen to you. If you've had that
100%.
conversation a couple of times and your manager is not willing to listen to you,
Yeah.
escalate it. And if you still don't get what you need, then go look out for yourself, because at some point in time, if you don't do something for yourself and get
Mm.
out of that environment, you're the one who's going to pay the price. So
You see, when you speak about escalation, sometimes it's like you making yourself a victim, in the workplace, because now you're going over your immediate supervisor or immediate person that you report into, and for them, if you go over them, they look like they don't know what they're doing,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
So let's go back to the non-performance that you spoke about. Could it be they're non-performers because of the negative thoughts pattern that they have over the time that they were working there, and they never got assisted or helped? Um,
Yeah.
what are we talking about here? Yeah.
So there can be many reasons for non-performance. Um,
Mm,
People can are sometimes put into the wrong role, and they only realize it
mm,
once they end up in the role. This I can't do this work. Um,
yeah.
Secondly, is perhaps there's just been a culture for a long time of that this has been acceptable to operate at this level, and now suddenly the organization is asking to change it, and I having
Mm, mm,
to change that. It can be a lack of training. Um,
yeah.
it can be thought patterns, like you said, or thinking modalities. I think I'm doing really, really well, but I'm really fooling myself.
Cognize. Yeah.
And you get it sometimes where people think they're fantastic and they're quite surprised when the leader has a performance conversation with them. Um, yeah, so that self awareness of am I genuinely what am I battling? So Naya, like self awareness is such a critical skill. Stepping back and going, genuinely, how am I perceived in the organization? Secondly, um, here I'm saying I'm stressed, I can't work, but actually I work less than anyone else in the team. What's that about? There's something else going on there. What's my expectation, um, and beliefs and values there? Um, and then also, interesting enough, when it comes to stress, is self awareness is such a powerful tool when it comes to stress, Because stress is so individualized, something that seriously stresses one individual will have no impact on another person. So this ability to step back and go, what are my stress triggers? Um, I'll give you an example. Like one person might thrive in an environment where there's regularity and the work doesn't change and it's the same every day and they know what they're doing. And it, although there's lots of work, they don't have to scramble around or anything like that. They know what they're doing. Now you change their environment to high perform and you put them in an environment where there's low procedures, where there's low policies, and they have to suddenly make a lot of decisions themselves. Nobody can tell them what to do. They're making a huge amount of decisions, and that not knowing, not having someone to turn to, having to take accountability and make all the decisions myself can dramatically stress them. But you might find that if you that two people, you swap those around, you take like a person who loves thriving in a changeable, dynamic environment, and you put them in a role that doesn't change, that's boring, that's monotonous. It's incredibly stressful to them because it's boring.
mm, mm.
So you see
You're not still.
how, yeah, you can't make a rule. You've got to be this ability to either be self-aware or to be able to have a leader or someone else who you can talk through and go, like, what is the trigger for me? What are the things that invigorate and energize me? What are the things that tire me out, drain my energy, and learning to work with that. It would be nice if we could always find the job that was perfect for us and like matched our energy levels and had great meaning and purpose. And that's beautiful if you can find it. It's a luxury very few of us get to have. Most of us end
Mm,
up sometimes having to find a balance between doing stuff we don't really enjoy. Um, but we've got to find those little moments then of
yeah,
what are the things that
yeah,
are offset that with? What's the meaning
yeah,
that offsets that? Yeah.
yeah. I think this topic brings us to this question that I've been wanting to ask. Um, Self care practices,
Mm,
because you mentioning that not all of us are able to find a job that we really enjoy.
mm,
I mean, majority of people are working because of the needs,
mm,
you know. It's not all about the wants. I mean, if you count the needs are outweigh more the wants that a person may have,
mm,
and hence they will stick around in the work condition. I know for a fact, my dad used to work in a company where the supervisor was horrible. I've never seen my dad so dreadful in his life for majority of his time.
mm,
But once that supervisor was removed and a new supervisor came, and everything changed. So sometimes we're hoping that things will change, and that's why we stick around. And sometimes we stick around because we don't have any other options.
mm,
Companies would pay me a salary that will not allow me to go look for another job
mm,
with the same position
mm.
because they are paying me from the market.
Yeah,
So, what can we do, for our self care practices,
yeah,
um, so that we are able to manage these high stress levels, the environment that
yeah.
we most of the time are in?
Sure, there's a lot of answers to that question, but no, you know what? That question that I asked right at the beginning around linking back to meaning. So, for
Mm,
example, your dad, what made him able to put up with that person, maybe for a few years, who treated him so
mm,
badly, was so hard? It was probably because he knew my family needs me. I
mm,
have to look after them. I have this responsibility. This is not an
yeah,
easy job, but this job allows me to do other things because with the money I make, I'm able to do certain other things.
yeah,
Um, and it's holding this in mind as a greater meaning as to why. So it's continually linking a greater meaning. Is really, really important. None of us get tired, even when we're working hard, if what we're doing is really, really meaningful for us. The worst place in the world to be is when you're doing something really, really hard and it's meaningless. It feels meaningless, and we've lost that connection. So that's a
mm,
very powerful conversation to have around what's important about this. And you know how organizations can do little things to help people connect with that is to help people to see how what they do is important or the impact that they're having. Um, because often you hear this expression like I feel like just a cog in the machine. Like what I do, whether I do it or not, makes no difference.
Mm.
Well, actually, it does make a difference, but perhaps you're not aware of the difference that it's making. So for example, learning to do simple things like saying thank you to people, showing appreciation to people. When you hear good news or there's feedback from clients around, hey, thank you so much. Do I feed that on to the people who did the actual work? Do I have a
Mm-hmm.
conversation sometimes with my staff members around, do you realize how important what you do is? If you didn't do this, it would have this impact.
Yeah.
All the research on motivation shows that people need a couple of things to stay motivated. One is a sense of purpose. I want to feel like I'm making a difference. All right, that's sometimes hard to do, but we can still help people to do that. Secondly, I want to feel like I belong here, that there's a sense of they will look after me. There's a reciprocation. There's loyalty. That sense of belonging. Thirdly, I want to grow. I want to feel like I'm getting better every day. So, am I being taught? Am I being developed? Am I having opportunities to learn? That's a seriously critical factor in motivation. Um, so, those three things: sense of purpose, a sense of belonging, and a sense of growth and development, often allow people to stay in roles where perhaps the finance is more challenging, perhaps, they're questioning, can I do that? So the research shows that those three things, that from a motivation perspective, are important.
Sure. No, it's really important to find a balance there. Yeah, and those that are connected on Telegram, I hope you enjoying the show. And if you have any question or any comment that you would like to ask, please do so by raising your hand. And we do have those that are connected live on YouTube. You can type your question there. We'll be able to read them out. We still have a few minutes left to our show, so you still have the opportunity to express what you feel and think about this topic. Oh, and now we do have a question on Telegram. Let me unmute you, Helda. Okay, you can unmute yourself. Okay, there you go.
It's not a question,
Mm-hmm.
but I actually want to thank Mike for what he's saying. And I've learned one or two things that if something I cannot control it, let it be. I'm not going to worry about some things that I cannot control. And what is within my control, I will control it. For instance, we used to eat lunch in the office,
Mm.
and you will never have a nice break. So sometimes just go out and enjoy your lunch out there
Mm,
without anybody disturbing you. Thank
I
you.
think that's a good idea there. I also have been in a situation where I sit on this desk the whole day.
Yeah.
I ate lunch here. I ate my breakfast here. I never went anywhere else except consulting the users there. I was in the IT field, so you get to a point where you cannot deal with
Yeah.
being there
Yeah.
because you're there the rest of your life. It seems like the rest of your life because you're there,
Yeah.
most hours of the day. And I noticed the moment when I took a break, when it was lunchtime,
Mm.
I went outside and sat under the tree.
Yeah.
Wow, it felt so better.
Yeah.
You come back with a fresh mind.
Yeah.
I mean, you're still doing the same thing, but your perspective is like, refreshed and you're able to view things differently. So that's a good idea that you just suggested there,
Yeah.
Hilda.
But
So please, yeah.
but that idea as well, if I can run it a bit further, right? Getting really
Mm,
clear on what can I control and what can I not control. Um,
yeah.
and and it sounds like a simple concept, but actually many of us really battle with that. We spend a lot
Mm,
of time wasting a lot of energy on things that are really outside our control. So that
yeah.
knowing that line, that boundary around, and I have a gesture always around, that's not my stuff. this is my stuff. Like this I can fix and change, that I can't.
Mm.
Gives us a sense of power, which is important. And then the little habits every day. Hey, now, so for example, sitting at a desk for more than an hour is incredibly unhealthy. So, like, set your alarm to take a break every hour. Just 2 minutes. You get up, go for a quick walk around the floor. If you can go outside into the sun for a minute or two, take a longer break later on in the day. These little things, instead of sitting at your chair, stand up for a moment while you take a call. Go for a
Yeah.
bit of a walk. They're all little things that you can do, but they make such a big difference on us physically. Setting yourself up where you can work, move out the window. Now, like one of the topics that I think is very big at the moment is this pressure at the moment about back to the office. Um, Many organizations are going, we're battling to manage our staff. We want everyone back into the office. And I actually think that this is creating stress. Interesting enough, when we told people to work at home, at first there was stress, but people actually adapted quite quickly. And I think a lot of people enjoyed the fact that they were home a little bit more, that the dog
Yeah.
was maybe sleeping under the table now while they were working, that when the day ended and they took a break, they were right there and they didn't have to spend now another hour in traffic on the way home. But organizations are saying, come back to the office 2 to 3 days. And I understand the reasoning of many organizations as well. They're saying corporate culture is suffering, team effectiveness is suffering. Like we're battling to manage those things. So we want to have people back in the office. But there's a missing conversation still, which is around, it's not an either or, but around how do we learn to do hybrid well? How do we design a hybrid to be the most effective, most brilliant way that we ever go? How did we ever work without it?
Exactly.
What irritates people is they will sit in traffic for an hour to go into the office, sit at their desk at their office, and go straight onto a Teams meeting.
And they're already worked up
And
by traffic.
they're saying, but why did I spend an hour in traffic to come to sit in my desk here and I'm on a Teams meeting anyway with somebody?
Yeah.
So organizations, if they want to run hybrid, there's conversations and they can be really coached into a team around, let's co-design a system when we're in the office, we're doing the right things on the right days. Like what's the stuff that we need to do as a team? There's a creativity piece there. There's a connection piece. There's a one-on-one and planning piece that is best done in person and when we're together. Let's do that stuff when we're in the office. But it takes a level of thinking and planning. And then, you know what? Other days, don't come into the office. Stay home because we know you're more productive perhaps when you have peace and quiet and you can sit behind your desk and you can get things done. And you have an extra
Yeah.
2 hours a day because you're not stuck in traffic. But it's, I find that there's this tension at the moment between in office or stay at home. And I just want to suggest that there's a much healthier conversation, which is we haven't learned to do hybrid well. Let's have that conversation because I think if we nail that, we're going to get the best out of people because people feel like I'm really valued because you're willing to work with me in a sense to get the best out of me. And that in the moment somebody does that to you and says, explain to me what works for you, don't you feel instantly more valued? And you go, hey, this person's willing to listen to me. They appreciate me. They're not just randomly saying, come into the office Tuesdays and Thursdays, but they're actually listening and saying, what works for you? What do you want to
Yeah.
do? So those things help tremendously as well, especially with this new generation. They want to feel like they have more control over their destiny on how they work and how they interact with people.
Yeah, you're right. We do have a comment on YouTube. Sister Kathy Sagamela, she's owner of the Unjani Clinic. So she says, as an employer, I encourage myself and my employees to walk in the garden. It's really refreshing. And we've had interaction with Sister Kathy. We had her on the show as well as a nurse. So we've been to her clinic too. I mean, the morale of the staff there, you can tell that, they are under a good leadership. And thanks for doing that, encouraging them, Sister Kathy, for that helpful tip. So, Mike, when you're having fun, time flies.
Yeah, it's true.
It flies. And an hour seems so long, but it just goes by very quickly. So to wrap up, what can we take home from this discussion on how we can deal with stress in the workplace?
So sometimes a game I play with my clients is, if you one day think of yourself as when you're a bit elderly, and
Mm,
perhaps you're retired, and you think back on your life, what do you want to say about your life? Like, what are the things that will be important to you? Like, I had a clean inbox. Like, I never missed a deadline at work. Are those the things that you're going to remember? Probably
no.
not. The things that matter most to us as human beings are making a difference, having an interaction with people, spending time with people that are important to us. But we seem to miss that in the day-to-day rush. So this ability to just step back, look at yourself, and go, I still want to perform. I still want to do really, really well, and I need to do that. But I want to have this flow. So start thinking of it as a flow where that pendulum swings every day. Yeah, every day I do stuff that's hard, that makes me tired, that I have to push myself. But every day I have these little moments that excite me, that energize me, where I find that little bit of space for myself, where I really enjoy something. I go and have lunch with a friend. We have a chat. Maybe it's only 15 minutes, but I really have that connection. I come home. I switch off my phone. I have dinner with my family and children. Maybe it's just half an hour that we just
Mm,
switch off everything and we do that. But that's so important to me. Or like yesterday, I was speaking to a senior leader in one of the organized big banks, and he was saying every day, no matter what, he gets up early in the morning, he has breakfast with his kids, and he drops his kids at school, because he says that's his moment of connection as he drives to school. And he says no matter what happens, he will not
mm,
give that up. Like, that's his special sacred time. And you
mm,
can imagine it, and he says, I have to do that now, because in 5 years' time, those kids are going to be gone at the home, and I'll have missed that. So if I don't do it now, I don't get a second chance in that. So it's, how do I cut and create those little spaces for myself,
mm.
of renewal and refreshment, and in rebuilding?
Well put. I cannot add anything there. I'm going to spoil it. You've put it so well. I think everyone here connected and who will be listening afterwards for on this recording will definitely benefit from what we've learned from you, Michael. So, Michael, where can we find you? If we having our listeners here who are decision makers in the companies, where can they find you?
So
Yeah.
it's Coaching Unity. It's all one word. CoachingUnity.com.
Oh, so they can get you on this website, coachingunity.com.
.com. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Can they connect you on LinkedIn as well?
My LinkedIn page is under Michael Cooper, or Coaching
Okay.
Unity. I'm on LinkedIn.
Okay. Awesome. So if you do want to connect with Michael, he's a genius in this field, as you may have heard. So he can help the people that you work with, that work for you, in dealing with stress in the workplace. And I believe you do other coaching as well, not just stress management. Eh?
No, so a lot of it is executive coaching, and it's around performance, like maximizing. I also coach people who are transitioning, because that's a very stressful time when people transition sometimes from a technical role into a leadership role.
Mm-hmm.
One of the big focuses recently has also been on what we call systemic team coaching. There's so much emphasis on teamwork at high level nowadays. Manco teams, management teams, executive teams, and you can imagine, if that team works together, how much value they can add, but how challenging it can be if they're dysfunctional and not working well together. So helping teams to really maximize cohesiveness in that is also part of the work that I do.
All right. Thank you so much, Michael. This is Michael Cooper, who was with us today, expanding on this topic on how we can deal with stress in the workplace. And thank you also to those that have connected on Telegram, on YouTube, and also here on Riverside, the platform that we're streaming from. We really appreciate your support so much. Please, extend an invitation to everyone that you know. This is the platform where we speak about things that a lot of people don't have a chance to speak about. Topics regarding mental health, wellness. The moment you start talking to wrong people, they think you're crazy. But in effect, you're not crazy. You're as healthy as they come. It's just you need to know how you can deal with the situation that you're facing. And every one of us is carrying something, in our backpack there, and that's heavy on us. So if we speak out, there is somebody that can help you. So my name is Naomo Rapidi, the host of NMP Talk Show, and thank you for joining us. Until next time, this is how we're signing out.
Selassie.